government employee that died, whether he was airman or army or what, have his name on one side of the stone. And they buried him 8 foot down. And then his wife died, and she so desired she could be buried on top of him, and her name would be put on the other side of the stone. I went down because my dad died in 1970. My son had just come along, but I felt that I'd like to be buried down on top of my dad. And so anyway, I went down that way 2 weeks ago. And the cemetery is completely built up, except for one spot, number 4610. That's for me, so they were glad to see me. Wondering where I was and so forth.
Earlier, I've got to ask you another question. You and I talked, and I keep trying to imagine, you were coming down in a parachute, and they were shooting at you. And a lot of your friends were killed while still in the air. Tell us a little, I know it's horrible stories, horrible memories.
Well, the Germans just picked them off all they could, you know, airburst, rifles, everything else. See them bomb, trying to, they don't war. They say war is hell, and that covers a lot. Every man for himself. All dirty work, you know, take the Germans dressed as medics. Wounded soldier cry for a medic. Here I see these fellow coming in with a medic, jacking on, whips her to Luger and shoots her, you know. Things like that happen. The Germans were very famous for it. And it put a lot of fear in me when I was wounded, you know. Now, the last days, when the tank got knocked out, and I was on it, that was April the 10th, and the war was over, May the 8th. And so, when I came back to States, they had me in England for a little while, and had me in France for the best part, then they got me over to England, and they were go fly me to the States. But as it was, I came home to America on a thing. But I forgot, since I got into New Jersey, they flew me to Harmon General Hospital, Longview, Texas. Well, that was open, I think. And then later I got me back to Valley Forge. I don't know where it's at now. I don't know where Longview, Texas is. I haven't bothered to go back that way. I know you went to Europe. And I wouldn't want to go.
You wouldn't want to go back?
No. I remember with the 84th, it was a different war.
Yeah.
When I was with the 84th Division, and it was 501. 501, you come in, you do your mission, you polite, go back, regroup. So, yeah.
Early, I'm going to ask all of the World War II veterans to stand. Can you see some of your fellow peers? Stand up, all of you World War II veterans, if you would. When you were talking about in the hospital, it brought back memories to you. Didn't it, Ralph, about being in the hospital? He was wounded twice. Here's a fellow that jumped out of an airplane because he had to. jumped out, broken back, never was treated, became a prisoner of war in Germany. Over here, Jack he's got the memory of General Patton tapping him on the shoulder when he was sitting up in a machine gun, right, Jack?
That's right, but we did meet.
You did meet. Whereas Mike Arabic was on a little destroyer escort, and they got credit for sinking 6 Japanese submarines in 12 days. Who have I missed? Oh, Ron, we can't forget Ron. He was a P-47, but he couldn't drive a car, but he could fly that big Thunderbolt. Right? Have I missed anybody?
Yeah, Kim.
Yeah. Here we go. He was on the USS Independence.
Yeah.
And the planes early, he said, remember, they were flying so low they couldn't shoot at them because the guns wouldn't be pressed enough as they flew by. It's amazing the stories, what you fellows went through.
You know,
And, oh, here we go. And here's a lady that was trained as a medic in World War II. It's amazing the stories that you all have, and it's amazing how we appreciate so much your service, and it's because you represent the greatest generation that we don't have to speak German or Japanese.
you know, I forgot to tell you, I got the wrong stop.
Right, I was going to ask you.
I was reclassified, went to the 84th Division, and well, I went in as an average cadet, Bakersville, California. I got washed out after 3 days. They had a rule where you go to bed at 9 at night, and that was it.
You're going to love this story now, you know, this pure guy here.
Yeah. So it was one of the guys that lived down in Bakersville. He said, come on, man, I know some girls. He said, nobody checks out. So anyway, we went into town, got here about 10:30 at night, took into town. 3:30. Next morning, we came back in, sneaking back in, got it, entrance to the barracks, nobody around, you know. It was a guard, you know. We knew the password. I crawled on down. Don't turn the light on. You crawl down the floor. And my footlocker was the 11th one in the door. Got on down, it's about 10, all footlockers. Then suddenly a big blank. Footlocker was gone. And so this boy with me had another bed in between us and him. He got down. His bed and footlocker was gone. And so, at that time, this guy standing there, charge of quarters, had a flashlight and said, y'all looking for something? He said, you know, come on over into the guardhouse with me. And he said, I got a couple of folding cots, you can spend the night. He said, what's your footlockers? He said, your bed and all. He said, it's gone. He said, footlockers, we saved those. He gave me a footlocker for a duffel bag. Take it and put it in a duffel bag. Next morning, they said, since you volunteered for the Air Force, we'll give you opportunity to choose what branch of the army you want to go to. You know, but they were strict. Obedience, dependable. So anyway, I told them, paratroopers, because they paid $60 more than a regular, you know, army. And $60 in those day and time was money. And so we took the paratroopers. I went to the 101st, he went to the 82nd. We corresponded for a while, but, you know, before they got involved in it. Went overseas and everything, we discontinued time, different places. But the Bronze Star, I volunteered for the recon. And they were glad to get me. They gave me the Point Jeep, the one that went out about ahead of all the column of tanks and B-37 M8s vehicle with also 37 millimeter turn. They would turn on it like a tank. And at night, that you send out, and they had two little slits lights back in the back for night drive, and same thing in the front. And you could see pretty easy. So anyway, leading us to column, and then told me that there's a Y in the road to take the right one. And I took the right one. So I went along and they kept telling me, move back, man, you went too slow. Well, some of a joker had pulled in between us. And I got out there maybe about a mile and a half or 2 miles ahead of them. And they were telling me to still speed up and move out. And then joker was still going along slow. Rounded this curve about 6:30 in the morning. And there were the Germans over here, and a bunch of them over there. Nobody had told me on the radio that the Germans were there. They were supposed to have, they moved in, they weren't there the day on reconnaissance. And I had a map radio, had a brand new second lieutenant just come over from the States, riding with me. Had his second lieutenant bowels polished up nicely and so forth. And I had a fellow named Andrew Jackson. He came from North Texas. He was a gunner. I had a dope gun. The lieutenant had a bike, and also listening to Vice Todd too. Well, anyway, the lieutenant, while we were out of these, and the Germans, like I said, were standing by the fire getting warm. And boy, all hell broke loose. They got to shoot. And so there was a big bomb there. And so I knew that the Germans were beyond that also. So I whipped up that path that went to the barn. And I drowned the Jeep out, or choked it out. And so I hit the ground, and I looked at Andrew. He'd been hit and he was dead on back of Jeep. But with the path I got was a manure path, drainage from the barn. But I stayed right in it, boy, crawled all up. And the lieutenant, he was crawling on his hands and knees. The man, I was below ground. I was so close to him. And got up in the barn and was full of cows. And behind each cow, or maybe behind each 2 cows, one where they throw the manure out, and a yearn run out in the trough. And they get together and they go down the path. Well, stayed up there. Now this was about probably, like I say, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And so stayed up there now and then. A German would stick his head into one of those manure doors and shoot, trying to hit, or they hit cows and one thing else, So we stayed there. And so I decided, I said, Lieutenant, we got a choice. If you cover me, I'll slide back in that ditch and get that Jeep. I said, because we got radio contact on that Jeep and got a 50 caliber machine gun mounted on it. So I went on down, slid on down. I didn't think it was near, it didn't bother me. But when we got up to the barn, the first time he stood up, he said, what should I do? I said, reach down, get some manure, put on those gold bars you got, because you're going to be up around target. But anyway, so I got down and the Jeep was still in gear. And so I knocked it early again, it didn't move because one of the tires was almost flat. Hit the key and that thing started. I jumped up in it, man, and hanging up the Jeep was cut out low. Well, man, I had got it in the barn. And I was able then to call for anti-aircraft and also shelter. And they circled that barn, all the wooded areas, and just kept going at it. No miss. Some of the shelter fell, make an accident or just somebody unusually good put it 25 foot from the barn we were in. And that night, a bunch of rangers came up and wasn't in the fighting hardly where we were. Most of the fighting was shelling. They had dispersed them and so forth because they shelled all day long. And they took me back, and most of the column I had been leading